I'm reading this because I've been putting this off for about like a week now. But now it's time to man the fuck up and read this. I am one big bruise, Spike moaned. It's your own fault, Twilight said heartlessly, laying another taut howl over him. Pony of stone, he accused. She rolled her eyes. Sure, that's why I'm here with heated towels and salve, instead of in my nice cozy library. Fluttershy rose into the air in order to lay another towel over his back. He groaned in relief and practically melted all over the cobbles. So good, he burbled. Oh, yeah. We found his off switch, Twilight said dryly to the other pony. Then her eyes widened in alarm and surprise. Princess? Spike raised his head eagerly, muscles protesting. Luna? But it was a tall white alicorn with a pastel rainbow mane that stood before him, her hooves bound in gold filigree. Spike tried to pull himself upright in order to bow, but Princess Celestia held up one hoof to stop him. You should not rise, judging from the sight of you, she said. His brow furrowed. Princess? Is something wrong? Not that it's great to see you. She looked along... Not that it's not great to see you. She looked along his length silently before inclining her head. Indeed, I should not call you little any more, she said. Princess! Twilight found her tongue and ran to greet her mentor joyously. It's so wonderful to see you. And you too, Twilight Sparkle, Celestia replied, though there were tense overtones in her normally warm voice. Something is wrong, Fluttershy said in her realization. Celestia turned her regal head from her prodigy back to Spike. When you didn't answer my last letter, Spike, I wasn't very concerned. I thought you might be still mulling over my offer. But then one of my advisors brought me this morning's Oh Hey magazine to me. The princess's horn flared, and a trashy-looking sort of magazine fluttered into existence. Spike's shocking secrets revealed? What they're not telling us by gossipy rag, read Twilight. Oh no! A conspiracy reaching to the highest authorities in Equestria. Exclusive proof? Fluttershy looked up from the magazine cover with a wince. Oh dear. We left the letter in the square yesterday, Spike realized with horror, and there were all those reporters everywhere. One of them obviously found it, Twilight sighed. Princess Celestia looked stern and just a bit puzzled. My little ponies and dragon, what are you saying? My letter arrived during a press conference? More like a siege, Spike muttered. Princess, I'm so sorry. It arrived just as we were walking into town, and there were reporters and protesters everywhere. We were so preoccupied with trying to contain my fire that we totally forgot the letter. She sighed and closed her brilliant lavender eyes. I see. I really am sorry, he said humbly. I seem to say that a lot lately, especially to you. The damage is done, she waved her hoof in dismissal, and your lack of answer is now explained. Spike scratched his head. Yeah. Do take better care of your mail in the future, she said in a long-suffering tone, though a twinkle began to wink from within her eyes once more. Apology accepted. Spike released a smoky sigh of relief. Whew! Thanks, Princess. Do you know what the letter said? She asked. Oh, do you want to know? She asked, and Twilight leaned forward, her eyes liquid with hope. Oh, so can you magically intervene in this fight, Princess? She asked. We've been so worried. Patience, my faithful student, Celestia said. I believe this gossipy rag has helpfully printed the whole letter. Page 26, if you would. Twilight glanced back at Fluttershy, before her horn flared and the magazine flipped open, the pages ruffling by magic to fall open at a shot of Spike hauling the wagon with his friends riding inside. He looked rather pleased, and Spike remembered how happy he'd been at Rarity's compliment. You almost look smug, Spike, Fluttershy said, her brow wrinkling. They'll have chosen that picture especially for that reason, Twilight growled. Here's the letter. Could you? Spike asked her, and she nodded, her horn glowing brighter. The magazine grew to twice its size, and he bent to it, frowning. Dear Spike, he read, your apology is accepted, but your reasons are not. Setting aside your fears for my personal safety, I would have held it my duty as your princess and as your friend to aid you in the smallest of ways through this difficult time. I am sure that my sister, Twilight, and your friends feel much the same way. Furthermore, I understand that acting contrary to an instinctual urge is difficult, but I have already stated my case here. In any case, let us consider this affair over and done with. You are forgiven. I have just read the article and the interview published by one Scoop Headlines, and I must say you comported yourself with true honesty and feeling in this matter. Well done. It is a trying thing to be singled out amongst the many for public scrutiny, and my thoughts are with you. Remain calm, remain strong, and remain yourself. Always remember your friends are with you. I hope construction on your house is going well. To answer your second postscript, although I indeed have the power to affect a fully grown dragon politically, it is impossible. I am afraid I cannot influence any outcome of this challenge. It is an intrinsic and ancient part of draconic culture, and they would see my involvement as a desecration. It pains me to write this. You see, your article will attract attention from outside Equestria as well as within it. There will be considerable interest from the dragon clans about you. Should their magicians discover that I am interfering in ancient and traditional rite of combat, I will be signing Equestria up for invasion. The situation is very tense as it is. Wormstedt's ambassador has already questioned me quite harshly regarding the origins of your egg. I am so very truly sorry that I cannot magically assist you in this matter. Perhaps I can help in the matter of the unrest here in Equestria. I believe that sending my royal guard would only exacerbate EXACERBAT. That's an awesome word, but what does it mean? Sending in the royal guard would only exacerbate the situation, but publicly acknowledging our friendship may soften some hearts. Furthermore, I would like to invite you to the Grand Galloping Gala in 2 weeks' time as a special guest. This would be a fine opportunity to display your good intentions to the most influential ponies in the kingdom. Your friends are also invited, and do tell them that they are allowed, nay, encouraged, to liven up the festivities as they did the last time they attended. Be warned, Wormstedt's ambassador will likely hound you in agreeing to leave Equestria to be with the others of your kind. As you have repeatedly said, Ponyville is your home now. Hold fast to your convictions. Please let me know if you agree to this proposal. I look forward to your answer. In friendship, Princess Celestia. P.S. My sister also says hi, and asks me if she may visit you again soon. P.C. P.P.S. Could you please send your recipe for dandelion and wild rocket quiche? I haven't had a good one for nearly 3 centuries now. P.C. Spike fell silent and looked upon the princess. Grand Galloping Gala? What does the article say about the letter? Fluttershy hovered over his shoulder, her eyes racing over the page. A whole lot of horse apples, Twilight growled. Naturally, she had read ahead. Twilight? Language, Spike said, shocked she would swear in front of a princess. Celestia looked grim and a little amused. I'm just gonna... What the hell? Okay, there we go. In this case, I feel that my faithful student is fully justified in her choice of words, she said. It is a despicable, scurrilous load of nonsense and conjecture. Lots about how you and the princess are conspiring against the ambassador. Lots about the challenge being a barbaric and primitive ritual. Lots about your instincts, and plenty of insulting things about dragons in general, Twilight fumed. I don't exactly disagree about the challenge, Spike muttered. Even a horrible bit of hooey. Twilight spat Applejack's word in her simmering irritation, saying that you were dangerous simply by bringing the Wormstedt's attention to Equestria, as though they hadn't always known that dragon lived within our borders. Calm yourself, Twilight Sparkle, Celestia said. It is a ridiculous slander indeed, but it can easily be punctured. I will make a royal announcement tonight to refute the allegations. That's not going to help against the Parents for Peaceful Equestria lot, Spike said glumly. Is that the name of the group against you? Celestia asked, and tisked when he nodded. Such a transparently emotional ploy. I don't know if they're ever going to be accused of being intellectual giants, Spike replied. The Grand Galloping Gala again? Fluttershy said, her face flustered. Oh, dear. I thought that was all done with. Now, Fluttershy, the princess's lip twitched. It was a long time ago. I'm sure they'll all simply, love you. Twilight made a choking sound, and Spike stifled a snort as Fluttershy turned the color of curdled milk. Ugh! What is the color of curdled milk? Ugh. Wouldn't she turn red? 'Cause she's embarrassed, not like green or whatever. Anyways, what do you think? The princess continued smoothly, as though poor Fluttershy wasn't dying of mortification on the spot. Is it a good plan? Spike shrugged, and then cringed as his back creaked like a rusty hinge. Sure, he said, as long as you don't send any letters halfway through. She smiled. No fear of that, my dragon. One more thing, though, Twilight said, as a matter of factly, having recovered her composure. That's only a few days before the challenge. Are you sure that's a good idea, Spike? Perhaps you should stay at home and rest up. Spike considered it. On the one claw, he rather liked the idea of holing up in a ponyville. Meeting stuffy, fancy, stuck-up ponies wasn't his idea of the best times. Besides, why should he waste what could be one of his very last nights at a stupid gala? Because he shouldn't think that way, he realized with a chill racing down his spine. For the same reason, he was continuing to build his house. He had to make plans for his future. He had to go on as though his existence didn't have a looming deadline. He had to believe that he would survive and continue to embrace all the ridiculous, painful, and humiliating and wonderful complexities that make up life. He had to hope. Otherwise, he might as well walk up to Razorfang's cave and ask him to end it then and there. I'll go, he said. Celestia smiled gently at him. I thought you might. I will send the tickets tonight. How many? Spike glanced at the rather morose Fluttershy. How about I get back to you on that one? She inclined her head. Very well. I await your letter. And Spike? He looked back to her, neck pinging with pain. Yeah? Yes, Princess? Do try not to lose them, she said with a small smile. He blushed. So you do know the origins of Spike? Do you know the origins of Spike's eggs? Twilight asked suddenly, her eyes tracing the article once more. The princess looked taken aback. Excuse me, Twilight Sparkle. She gestured to the magazine with a hoof. I was just rereading the letter, and you said you'd been questioned by the Wimstrudit's ambassador about it. Can you remember anything? Spike looked uncertainly from Twilight to the princess. He wasn't actually sure he wanted to know the answer to that. His family was the purple unicorn, and she was all the family he wanted. He didn't want to know if his family had lost him, or worse, rejected him. I am afraid I was not aware of any details at the time, my faithful student, Celestia replied. The school for gifted unicorns made these arrangements in my name without my consent. I believe the practice started many decades ago, when an abandoned dragon's clutch was discovered by a professor of the school. She made hatching them part of the examination, and it proved so effective a method of determining magical ability that it became a tradition. I put a stop to it once the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Dragons brought it to my attention. As for Spike's egg, the school itself has records of where it sourced the dragon's eggs from, I believe. Just the president of the Oh, right. His name is Just, in case you for some reason don't know that. This is more to remind myself. They named a pony Just, and it's really difficult. Just, the president of the society, is helping me with that, Spike said. He offered last night. Twilight gave him a sharp look. Then you have gained a very passionate and vocal advocate, the princess said, her ethereal mane rippling in a non-existent breeze. Spike, are you... Twilight began, but he hushed her quickly. The princess raised her eyebrows at him. Is there a problem? Well, Spike squirmed, he's gonna find out which clutch my egg was from. Sure, but it's mostly to find out whether Huffy, Trixie's dragon, was my other sister. Your other Oh! Celestia smiled warmly and broadly. You would not then consider a dragon to be your real sister, and Twilight to be your adopted sister. Twilight is my real sister, Spike said indignantly, and then subsided as he realized how stupid he sounded. I know we're different, and I guess I'm adopted, but she's my sister. She is. Even if I end up having a million brothers and sisters, Twilight is still my sister. That's all there is to it." "Territory?" the princess asked delicately. Spike's eyes blazed. "Precisely. Ooh, this is where things get a bit intense." Twilight blinked. "I'm territory?" "Not in the traditional sense, I expect." Celestius tilted her head. "He means to protect you." She looked gobsmacked. "Spike, you ninny, I protect you!" He gave her a steady look. "Nope, not for this. Not in this way." "Perhaps you should explain further," the princess suggested gently. Spike squared his shoulders and turned to face Twilight and Fluttershy fully. "Okay, right then. Here's sort of how it goes. Ponyville is mine, and I protect it. They're my ponies. I look after them. Especially you, Twilight. You're mine. My sister." She stared at him. "Am I my own pony as well?" "Oh yeah, that too," he allowed. "Do what you like, as long as it makes you happy. That'll make me happy. Whatever doesn't make you happy, though, answers to me." "Does that go for all Ponyvillians?" Fluttershy ventured. He beamed. "Yep. And I just get all the brotherly love on top. I get it. What? I just get all the brotherly love on top. I get it." Okay, I don't know. Twilight said blankly, "Oh, wow, Spike. You've given this a lot of thought." "It is well done of you, my dragon," Celestia murmured. Spike's chin lifted happily, and he took, "Oh, she's not calling him little anymore. Kind of like my dad calls me little boy, even though I'm as tall as him. Almost taller. Almost. Oh, so close." Spike's chin lifted happily, and he took a deep breath filled with contentment. "Thanks, princess." I think I need to think about this some more," Twilight said, in a stunned voice. "You? Thinking too much? Shock and awe," Spike teased. That seemed to snap her out of her trance, and she scowled at him. "Oh, funny dragon," she said with heavy sarcasm. He grinned at her. "Thanks for noticing," he said cheerfully. Just thinking about his village, his ponies, and what could be, filled him with a sense of rightness and comfort. His territory, his ponies, his to protect, to look after and care for. It was a much-needed panacea in the midst of the escalating chaos of his life. "So that's what you meant when you—" Twilight began and stopped. Spotlight glanced sidelong at her, knowing she was going to bring up the moment during the interview with Scoop. "Yeah," he said softly. "Wow," she breathed. "Really? All of us? You're going to look after all of us?" Fluttershy asked again, her pupils wide with affection and wonder. Spike nudged her with a forepaw. "My pony," he declared, and then poked his tongue out at her. She giggled. "Spike, that's sort of amazing," Twilight said. "But don't you want anything for yourself?" "This is for me, Twilight," he said patiently. "I could have just claimed any place, you know. First charity was the library, but now I've outgrown it. So I could have picked anywhere, yeah? But a place doesn't make you laugh, or cry, or smile, unless it has memories attached. What makes memories? Friends do. Family. Ponyville has all that for me. But most of all, the ponies of Ponyville make it what it is. And they'll be mine, and I'll be theirs. And I'll be there to look after them." He smiled faintly. "I told you this." "Not in so much detail," Twilight said in a hushed voice. He shrugged again. "Well, that's sort of it, anyway," he said, peaceably. "Peaceably? It says peace, and then it's ugly." "Hey, remember you mentioned about the horde? I really don't think I'm gonna need one. My horde's alive and growing all the time, and it talks to me." "Oh, Spike!" Fluttershy gasped. "Very, very well done," the princess said quietly, and she bowed her elegant head to them. He jerked his own backwards in a startled surprise. What if he tries to make ponies breed so he has more? That'd be weird. Anyways. "It wasn't all me," he said, embarrassed at the show of respect from the premier monarch of the country. "Your sister helped." "I could sense her hoof in some of that," she agreed. "Greed and jealousy?" He nodded once, his face becoming grave. "Tell her to drop in any time." The princess looked skywards, and then back to him. "I must leave," she said regretfully. "There is a delegation arriving from the Eyrie, the Griffin capital. I must be in Canterlot to greet them." Spike lowered his head in a bow. "Princess, thank you. And once more, I'm so—" "Forgiven," she interrupted him, but with a smile. "It is past, Spike. Put it behind you." She looked up at the sky, again, her mane rippling and flowing gracefully, before looking back to the three of them. "I will see you all soon at the gala. Farewell, my little ponies. My dragon." With a flash of light as bright as the sun, she winked out of existence. "Oh, that was so embarrassing," Fluttershy said before she turned to Spike, a question in her eyes. "We're your horde?" He wriggled with discomfiture, shucking the cool towels from his back into a pile. "Sorta. Well, we all saw how I took to hoarding when I was little, and that wasn't exactly my finest hour. But this can be a way that I can channel my normal dragon greed without triggering any unnatural greed growth. Besides, hoard is such an ugly word. Can't I call you my gems instead? Nah, that's no good either. Sounds like I'm gonna eat you." I think that way with saying Derpy's a muffin, like if she has a romantic interest or her daughter, they say she will call them her muffin. That just seems like she sees them as an object and she likes to eat them. It's whatever. Just a weird quirk of mine. "I knew you'd claimed Ponyville," Twilight said in a subdued voice, her ears dropping. "I just didn't realize how personal and possessive it was." "Dragons are possessive, Twilight," he reminded her. "You've probably read all about it." "Wait, what am I saying? Of course you have." "Well, I'm no different there. I just have a few pointers on how to direct it." "Possessive, jealousy, greed, protective, eloquent, powerful, stubborn, proud, short-tempered, cunning, and inscrutable," Twilight recited, eyes widening. "Why didn't I ever connect all that with you?" "Hey, I'm not inscrutable," Spike protested. Then he paused. "What's inscrutable?" "Hard to understand or mysterious," she answered absently. She was gnawing on one hoof. "I don't think I'm either of those," he said, wrinkling his snout. "And I'm not sure I'm cunning. I'm not eloquent or especially short-tempered. I don't think, anyway. Don't worry that you never saw me like that before. I'm pretty glad of that, actually. It means I was always just Spike to you, not Spike a dragon, even when I was little. That means a lot." Her eyes, already wide, widened even further. Then, to his great astonishment, she threw both hooves around his neck and took a deep shuddering breath, and began to cry quietly. "Twilight?" he exclaimed, one great paw rising to brace her trembling back. You're just growing up so fast," she sobbed. "Hey," he said, alarmed. "No, wait, Twilight. I didn't mean to make you cry." "You didn't make her cry," Fluttershy said suddenly, and Spike turned a confused green eyes on her. "I didn't? Then why she's crying?" "She misses you the way you were," Fluttershy said. "You're thinking of all these things by yourself, working it all on your own without her help. You carried a boulder today and melted a plow, and then told her mentor about claiming your territory. The press are hiding around every corner, and she misses that little baby she used to carry on her back. You've really changed a lot, Spike. You've taken on a lot of those traits she just rattled off, you know. You're such a real dragon now. You're not the baby dragon we all knew." "Yes, I am," he exclaimed in horror. I'm still me." His foreleg tightened around Twilight, holding her close. "Twilight, listen, please. I know this is a lot to take in, and believe me, I'm still trying to get my head around most of it. But no matter what, I'm always going to be your #1 assistant, okay? No matter what." "#1 assistant," she mumbled against his green-scaled chest, and then buried her face against him. "Oh, Spike, it's not that. It's, well, and then what if they did find your real family? You said I was your sister, and that was all there was to it, but maybe you'll feel differently if another dragon—" "Never," he said staunchly, his claws stroking her gently. "Never." "I love you," she said, and her hooves held tightly onto his neck. "I love you too," he said, a lump rising in his throat. "And I miss it too, you know. I miss my basket, and my blankie. Sometimes I can think I can still hear it calling my name. Spike, Spike!" he called, and then sighed, tucking his head over hers. She nuzzled closer into his neck. What happened to my blankie, anyway? You sneezed, Twilight said in a thick voice, sniffing. Oh, yeah, he said, and chuckled. She laughed a little damply herself. I thought I'd go mad every time you had a cold, she said. Knock on wood, Spike said hurriedly. I miss your little snores at night, she said. Now I can hear you all the way from out in the square. I miss falling asleep on your back when it was late, he murmured. I always felt so safe, knowing you'd get us home. You had so many nightmares about the mayor and that clown wig. She giggled tearfully. Don't remind me, he shuddered. It's stupid, she sighed, pulling herself away a little to look into his face. You're right here, and I talk to you every day, and I still miss you. He said nothing, but gazed at her. See, this is interesting, because they keep on talking about how Spike is her brother, and their brother and sister, but there's a whole lot of parental love going on here, with her missing the way he was. And it's a mix, and I'm not sure why the author isn't going into that, but yeah. Okay, maybe I don't know, it's only half over, maybe they'll go into it later. Well, not half, more like 33%. Your eyes are still the same, she said quietly. That's about it, really. It's still me, Twilight, he pleaded. I really am. Don't you be the one to believe otherwise. Not you. I know, she said. I do, really. It's just... I get it. He let his eyes drop to the ground. She put a hoof against his face and raised his eyes to hers again. Not that, she said, smiling through her tears. Not just how big you are, or how much you've changed physically. How wise you've become. He stared at her, taken aback. Twilight, you're talking to Spike. Spike, remember? The dragon who lost the princess's letter, got himself into a challenge, can't fly, didn't tell the princess about said challenge, almost flattened himself for a stupid little test. She shook her head in fond amusement. Changed the whole meaning of territory, stood up for his beliefs, let a bunch of fools use him for a jungle gym, wouldn't let Rarity's scarf be taken off, freed the Horsefall stream, didn't back down in the face of prejudice, and hysteria, and hate. Well, it sounds awesome when you put it that way, he said. Soon you won't need me at all, she said sadly. Now I know you're out of your mind, he said, rolling his eyes. I'm only a kid. You're my big sister, / mother. I'm always gonna need you, and I'm never letting you go. One day you'll have to, Spike, she said, barely audible. Knowing you, you'll be the voice of my conscience by then, he retorted. And anyway, when that day comes, you'll still be here inside my head and my heart. You're gonna be with me every day of my life, Twilight, and I'm never, ever letting you go. She leaned forward and kissed his cheek, strands of her mane catching in the finned scales at his jawline. Wise, she whispered. Oh, get away. Blah, mushy stuff, he said, embarrassed. Blinking, he looked around. Where'd Fluttershy go? She must have wanted to give us some privacy, Twilight said, in a sort of shattered voice. And Spike looked down at her, cradled within his foreleg. He made a decision. Well, we can't do this the old way, he said, but maybe we can get a teeny weeny little bit of it back. She gave him a suspicious look through the red-rimmed eyes. What are you, Spike? His name became a squeal as he raised her over his head, snaking his neck under her kicking legs, and depositing her on his back. He could feel her hooves scrabbling against his scales before she sat down heavily between his shoulder blades. His back complained vociferously. Whatever. But he ignored both it and the screaming of his limbs as he stood. Whoa, Spike! Twilight squawked as he drew himself up, her forelegs hooking around his neck in a chokehold. When he turned his head to look back at her, his neck arching easily, she glared up at him. Warn me next time, she growled. Sorry, he grinned sheepishly. What are we doing? She said in exasperation, and he cocked his head. Well, I can't ride your back anymore, so logically you'll have to ride on mine, he said. Where do you want to go? You can fall asleep if you like. That was always pretty cool. She gaped at him. Seriously, where do you want to go? he prodded. She blinked, and then smiled through her eyes, though her eyes were still watery. "Why don't we just do a turn around the town? Maybe we'll run into somebody we know." "That'd be nice," he smiled back. "Let's go for a pony ride." "Dragon ride." "Whatever. Ready?" "Hi-ho, Spike," she giggled and leaned against his neck companionably. "I am way too sore to rear up on my back legs like you did." "That's okay. The ground is far away enough as it is." "Is it okay?" "Yeah, it's fine. Actually, it's nice. I see why you liked it." "And if you turn around, you can see where we've been." "That's a very old joke." "The old ones are good ones, they say. Hey, Twilight." "Yes?" "Do you think Fluttershy is scared of me?" "What? What makes you say that?" "Well, she said I was such a real dragon now. And, well, she's afraid of dragons. Big ones. Wings and teeth and stuff. I hope I don't have to draw you a picture." You'd need a lot of purple crayon." "Oh, thanks. Kick a dragon while he's down. That's real nice." "I don't think she's afraid of you at all, Spike. She was certainly quite, apprehensive about helping with your fire at first, but she overcame that fairly quickly, didn't she?" "I suppose. She's your friend. She knows you, Spike. She knows you wouldn't hurt a horsefly." "Well, it can't hurt to ask, I guess." "Mind you don't hurt her feelings. You know how sensitive she is." "I'd never hurt her, Twilight." "Of course, I know. You possessive dragon, you. You know your gait is reptile, remember? My spine bends in a different way to yours." "Oh, of course. I should have realized. It's really very high up here. Look, I can see Sugar Cube Corner." "Yep, and you can see the boutique from the top of the next street." "Oh, you would know that, you big sap." "I'm merely an appreciator of beauty, that's all." "Oh, merely. Critic." "Spike?" "Hmm?" "Thanks." "Hey, what are number 1 assistants for?" She fell asleep on his broad purple back. He walked on through the golden afternoon, thinking of simpler days. Finally, I got that out of the way. See, I didn't want to reread that, because even though this is one of my favoriteest chapters in this fic, it's still like 5,000 words that I'd have to reread, and I was not very interested in that. And finally it's done, so now I can go to the next chapter, and this can continue. Yes. Done.